Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 3DO Experience, the 3DO Retrospective Podcast, where we talk about all things 3DO, the company, and everything in between. I am Bill, and this is Threk. How you doing, Threk?
I'm hanging in there, Bill. How you doing?
Doing all right. I just realized this is actually the first solo episode we've done in a while. I think the last one we did was Sherlock Holmes, like 5 episodes
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. Yeah, we were just constantly bringing in other people because, the marriage was getting boring.
We just had a lot of friends showing up for the chaos.
Yeah. It's always fun. So, and we have some other guest appearances scheduled and lining them up. So stay tuned for those, folks.
Oh boy, it's been today was a busy day in gaming, though. That's for sure. A lot of
There was quite a bit that happened. Yeah, since last week. I was gonna say we probably won't discuss everything, but but before we get to the big stuff, one thing I wanted to cover because this is one of my favorite games of all time. Half-Life 2 got a 20th anniversary documentary officially from Valve. I recommend everybody watch it. I think it's about 2 hours, and it's really, really good. But the highlight of it is at the very end when they discuss episode 3. They bring it up because it's been so long, and the original idea when they were doing the episodes was to do it in threes. That was the original idea. And at the end of the documentary, we see some test footage from episode 3 where there was like a blob like enemy. There was going to be like an ice weapon that you could like freeze enemies and use it to like traverse over boundaries, and it was going to be in the Arctic with the Borealis. If you follow the Half-Life 2 lore, about like the Borealis and everything. And it was shaping up to like be something. And they were talking about how like it would have taken them maybe 2.5 years to get it done and get it out. But why they stopped working on it was Left 4 Dead, because Left 4 Dead was being developed around the same time. And that IP turned into like an all hands on deck type of situation to get that done. And at that time, they had done episode 1 and episode 2, and the devs felt like they were getting a little Half-Lifed out. So they were kind of wanting to maybe give it a little break, go do Left 4 Dead, and then we'll come back to it. And then when they got back to it, they kind of weighed the idea of wanting to finish it or not. And they decided against it because they, had put so much work into like Half-Life 2 and the episodes and everything that it had been years that like for a lot of them, all they had worked on was Half-Life, and they were ready to do some new stuff. And because of that, Half-Life 2 episode 3 kind of got put on the back burner. Yeah, due to that. And also they felt by the third episode, they were struggling to find new ways to innovate on the gameplay. Like there were some ideas there, but it wasn't like episode 1 and episode 2 for Half-Life 2 do slightly different things to the Half-Life 2 gameplay. They find ways to innovate on it. And I think 3 probably would have been like a nice definitive conclusion to the story. But unfortunately it didn't happen because they just, it felt like they kind of missed the window. You know what I mean? Because they said, looking back, we probably could have just spent 2 years, finished it, and then, moved on, and it wouldn't have become a thing at all. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. The meme wouldn't exist if they had just spent the 2 years, finished it, and put it out there. And then that would have been that. And especially because episode 2 ends on such a heavy cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Is really what hurts. But Gabe talked about in the documentary how he didn't want to continue it just for the story. He finds that to be lazy because he's like, there needs to be more than just the story for why we're still doing things. There needs to be like gameplay reasons, which I get him. I get where he's coming from, though. I think story matters as well, but it's kind of, I guess, weighing them or whatever. But there is a quote from Gabe saying, my personal failure with it was being stumped. I couldn't figure out why doing episode 3 was pushing anything forward. So that's part of why it just never came out, unfortunately, and most likely never will. But we did get that leaked story script. What was it, like a year or two ago? Where somebody, leaked the Half-Life 3 script, episode 3 script, and I read through it, and it's kind of what I expected it to be, about like them going to the Borealis and all that stuff. But yeah, it's a shame that never happened, and most likely never will happen. Because the documentary feels like they're like, yeah, here's what we had, here's why it didn't happen, and at this rate, especially after Half-Life Alyx, there's no real reason to do episode 3. So, and I've not played Half-Life Alyx, but I've seen the ending, and the ending is another like, are you fucking kidding me? Kind of ending.
Yep.
Not in a bad way, just in a way of like, fuck, they're gonna keep me stringed into this, aren't they? They're gonna string me along. They didn't necessarily put away the idea of a Half-Life 3 existing. They're like, maybe. So it basically ends with like, will we do more Half-Life in the future? Maybe. It's all it kind of sits at right now, which is about what I expected. So it's about as much of a conclusion to the Half-Life episode 3, Half-Life 3 story that there is,
Yeah. It's there's like so many games that have just ended on cliffhangers, and it always like drives me nuts. Like,
especially one from such an acclaimed game that has really good storytelling in it and characters that I genuinely liked. To see it end that way really disappoints me. But you have to think with a lot of the more like PC centric devs, especially from like that, like from like Gabe Newell's generation, like not all of them view story as like the most crucial element. You know what I mean? Like there's that famous John Carmack quote about video game stories, So I can understand his viewpoint, even if I disagree with it. So I think it would have been easy to just knock it out and just be done with it. Like if they wanted to stop Half-Life right there, that probably would have been a good conclusion. And everyone would have moved on. It wouldn't have been a big deal, but
yeah, people wouldn't be salty about it to this day.
Yeah, I'm not salty about it anymore because it's been almost 20 fucking years, man. Like, you can't let that shit still linger. You know what I mean? Like it's really dumb.
I mean, I was a big Siphon Filter fan back in the day, and I'm not really mad about it anymore, but I'm always like, we never got a conclusion. The last PSP game, Logan Shadow, literally ends with both your main characters like dying, and it just kind of ends, and you're like, what happened? And then the explanation we got from Sony Bend was literally, the games didn't sell well enough on PSP to justify continuing the series. Sorry. And that's it.
It's a shame that tends to be the reason a lot of the time.
I know. It's a bummer too, because the two Siphon Filters on PSP, I think, were two of the best in the series because they really figured the gameplay out. Because they would later use that gameplay engine to make the Resistance game on PSP, which was pretty solid, from what I remember.
Yeah, and I don't think Siphon Filter is ever going to make a comeback at all.
No.
Does it even make a cameo in Astrobot?
Yeah, or no. Actually, I don't think so. I think they used the Days Gone guy instead.
Yeah, if they can't make a fucking cameo in Astrobot for Siphon Filter, then I don't know what to tell you, It's weird it's not there because that is like a staple PlayStation franchise, especially from like the PS1 days.
It is.
Like I heard about Siphon Filter. I heard about Siphon Filter back in the day.
It was one of the because it was designed to be Sony's answer to GoldenEye, which is hilarious in hindsight because it's nothing like GoldenEye.
That is weird when you think about it. Yeah.
I honestly, to me, its most interesting piece of history is the fact that it was made by the Bubsy 3D team, runs off the Bubsy 3D engine, and somehow ended up being a big enough hit to justify becoming a series. And then Sony ended up buying them, and now they're one of Sony's oldest developers.
Does Sony Bend still exist?
Yeah, they're still around.
What do they do these days? Nothing.
They haven't done anything since Days Gone.
They were the Days Gone guys. Oh yep. Man.
They had a huge. Man. It sucks too because that's a decent game. It just came out at the height of where we were fucking tired of zombie games, so no one cared.
Yeah. Oh, they also did the Vita Uncharted games.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. Golden Abyss was really good.
It was. They're a really good dev. They just they kind of fly under the radar.
Yeah, I can kind of see why. Yeah, and didn't who is the main designer on Days Gone? Didn't he have a fit on social media about this game's sales or something?
So he's no longer affiliated with Bend Studio. He left shortly after Days Gone, but that would be John Garvin. I remember because he threw a bitch fit on Twitter because he was mad about the cameos in Astrobot. I was just like, Jesus, man.
Well, was it he wasn't getting paid for it or something?
No, he was just mad that was what his character was reduced to. He's one of those weird artsy fartsy kind of guys.
Yeah. It is what it is, I guess. But like once you let it go and it's not in your control anymore, you just kind of have to, it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
I know that apparently they're trying to make a Days Gone movie. I get the idea, but like no one's going to give a shit.
No, we're people are just tired of zombies at this point.
Yeah. It has to be done right.
Hmm.
But speaking of Sony, this news dropped. I think it dropped today, didn't it?
It did, yeah, and it put the internet in a tizzy.
It's interesting because I thought I had heard something about this a while ago, but it was very like rumor mill type stuff, you know.
So the thing too that a lot of people don't, I've noticed a lot of people don't seem to get is a lot of people think this has already happened. This is still kind of in the talks phase, so like nothing's actually confirmed yet, but essentially it's been confirmed that Sony is currently in talks with Kato Kawa, the company that owns a number of video game studios, most notably FromSoft. They also own other studios like Spike Chunsoft and Acquire. So they own a few pretty high-profile game studios.
They really want that Octopath Traveler IP.
I don't even.
They want to take Dragon Ball Sparking Zero off of Xbox. That's what they really care about.
I don't think it works that way. They want Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Damn
it! Astrobot Mystery Dungeon. Get on it.
I'd be down for that.
So if you like Mystery Dungeon,
the internet really isn't reacting kindly to this, and I'm kind of sitting here going, like, is it really that bad?
I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I feel like Sony, to a degree, regrets buying Bungie.
They probably do.
It felt like it felt like they bought Bungie to be like a middle finger to Microsoft, like, oh, we own the Halo dev, right? And it did cause some confusion because I think some people are like, wait, does Sony own Halo now? And it's like, no,
that's not how it works.
No, exactly. But it feels like ever since Bungie's been there, it's been nothing but like Sony bitching about them because but Bungie are infamous for being assholes.
They're difficult.
Difficult is probably a better way to put it. And yeah, because there's been a lot of just like, oh, they just spend money and don't do anything, and it's like that sounds like Bungie.
For years, people used to always say like Bungie was the triumphant company that escaped the evil Microsoft. Now I'm starting to think Microsoft was tired of them and were like, go, be gone. We're done with you.
Yeah. Though apparently in that buyout, Microsoft did make an offer to Bungie and they turned them down. So, which, I mean, hey, it's not the first time they've tried to buy them.
Yeah.
You know, because they thought, maybe we'll just secure them, but Bungie just never wanted to do it. They didn't.
No.
They just didn't have that desire because they didn't want to stick with Halo because they knew if they were bought by Microsoft, they were just going to be stuck with Halo for the rest of their lives. And they didn't want to be that, which I understand that.
Yeah, because it's like the thing I always noticed with Bungie was they are stubbornly independent and they kind of do basically everything their way, which is novel and I do admire to a degree, but when you do it the way Bungie does, it just doesn't work.
And they seem to get wrapped up with like publishers who like either treat them like shit or just like cause problems. Because like, when they had Activision publish the first Destiny, that was a whole kerfuffle. And now with Sony buying them, all Sony does is complain about them. And it's like, maybe Bungie's the problem child here.
I think
because I guess it's like they don't just want to be fully independent. Because with the success of Destiny 2, you think that would be enough to be like, for them to be like, we're just our own people. And Sony tries to say they're their own people and they can do what they want, which, I mean, fair. But like, is Marathon going to be on Xbox? I have no idea.
What's really funny about Bungie I've noticed this is like they had their previous two like publishers before Sony, Microsoft and Activision were very like kind of like I'm not going to say controlling, but they were very much like we'd appreciate it if you did this.
It was that era where Microsoft like micromanaged everybody,
Oh yeah,
and it feels like they've gone in the opposite direction where they try to be almost too hands off.
yeah.
And Activision has always had a history of being tough.
Activision.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't blame them on the Activision front, but with Microsoft, again, it's a whole thing. And again, I don't blame Bungie for wanting to be like solo and independent, It's just interesting to think they didn't do like the Toys for Bob thing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Where they're an independent company, but they'll make deals with the other publishers to, get something going. So,
well, it's funny to me because
I just don't know why they didn't do that.
Yeah, you'll never know. What's funny with Bungie though is like they get bought by Sony, and Sony, say all you want about Sony, they have a very big tendency of they let their studios kind of do what they want, and they're very not controlling. The problem
to a
is
degree.
though, that's what I'm saying. Like the problem is though, they're kind of like a little too lax sometimes, and I guarantee you, Bungie was like, "Oh, you're gonna let us just do whatever we want? Oh, fuck yeah!" And they basically just did whatever they wanted.
The only thing I would push back on that is after Uncharted, or more specifically, The Last of Us, it felt like every first-party PlayStation game was trying to be another version of that. So it wouldn't be surprised if Sony was saying to all their studios, like, hey, maybe try to have your game resemble this like huge success that we had. In terms of like having some repeating things, Probably not directly forced, God of War and all this other stuff. They are different games for sure. But when they all have when they have the same camera perspective and like similar story beats and all of that, it's like you can't help but think that there's maybe a little bit of internal being like, hey, you should probably do that.
I wonder about that because, like, the studio in particular is Santa Monica, which is hilarious because they're not even in Santa Monica anymore. But that's besides the point. They're like a Sony like direct studio. Like their official title is Sony Computer Interactive or Sony Interactive Entertainment Santa Monica Studio. So I wonder if because they're like one of those kind of like ingrained studios like them, like Sony Bend, like the like OG studios. I wonder if because of that they're more
direct.
They're a bit tighter on the leash because you notice like Sucker Punch just does whatever and always comes out great.
Yeah, Sucker Punch kind of does whatever. Sony Japan or Team Asobi or whomever, for sure.
It's an interesting dynamic I've noticed, and I think with Bungie they kind of let them go a little too far, and then they realize they're kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and they don't really want to sell them, or maybe Bungie just doesn't want to be sold. I don't know. It's a whole mess. So
Bungie's probably like, this is great. We get funded for everything, and they let us do whatever.
And we get to take our time with Marathon. It can be a marathon of a development.
Hey, as long as it's a good shooter, I'm fine. I want them to like.
I'm probably not going to play it. I'll be honest. I've never played Destiny. It's never been anything I was interested in. So
that's fair.
I'm not going to play Marathon. So it doesn't bother me one way or the other. But this whole like Sony buying FromSoft thing is interesting. Because I could have swore I heard this like in a rumor mill a while ago, but it only could have been like people making it up because it was during the whole ABK thing with Microsoft, where I think some people are probably theorizing that Sony is doing this in like a response to ABK, which I don't know if that's necessarily accurate. And again, like people trying to do the whole like blaming Microsoft for this. It's like, guys, you really need to calm your hate boners for this.
I love how you'll get the sensible people who just kind of look at this and go, that's interesting. And then you'll get the rabid console fanboys. It's on both sides. Both sides are just as bad as each other. Like the Microsoft fans are obnoxious. The Sony fans are obnoxious.
I'm so glad I left Twitter because now I don't see it anymore. And it's great.
Yeah, I'll admit I saw a bit on Blue Sky recently, but nothing too insane because you can kind of just mute people that you don't want to see on Blue Sky, which is nice.
I don't see it. I don't frequent Blue Sky as much, but yeah, I don't really see that stuff, which is nice. And yeah, again, the whole console war thing with it is really dumb because I guess the idea people think is that if Sony buys FromSoft, then like all FromSoft games are going to be PlayStation exclusive, or at the very least, PlayStation and PC. Like no more Xbox, right? That's sort of the idea, because Sony has that precedent of if they buy something, they're just going to keep it on their console, because why would they put it on the other console, right? That's what people think, because they're like, oh, their hardware is selling really good. And it's like, yeah, their hardware is selling really good. But if you look at, say, their game sales for the first party stuff, they're not making the numbers that they want them to make. Even if, say, like a Spider-Man 2 does really well, or a Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, like they're not selling the numbers that even Sony would like. You know what I mean? Not even necessarily like Square or whoever. So and would FromSoft want to cut off that, cut off putting their games on Xbox? Again, I don't know how well that, like, say, the Dark Souls games or Sekiro or Elden Ring sell on there. I have them. Like, I have the Dark Souls trilogy. I have Sekiro. I'll probably buy Elden Ring on it at some point. Like, I'm sure there are enough sales on there to warrant keeping it. You know what I mean? It could be like FromSoft is one of those devs where it's like it could be like a Minecraft thing where it's like, hey, they do so well multi-plat, it would be kind of dumb to leave it just on their own system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We've been getting a lot of that recently. Like, this is a very small one, but that Lego Horizon thing, that still fascinates me. Like that, I feel like that is Sony's playing with some ideas here.
But that didn't come to Xbox either, which is interesting. It's on Switch, True. It's on PC, it's on PlayStation, but it's not on Xbox. I mean, I wouldn't have bought it, but like that, to me, that's probably a caveat some people are thinking, is that they will try to circumvent that, which, who knows if they will or not. I mean,
this is all speculation though, because
it is, and I'll hear from Will about this in the Discord tomorrow. Hi, Will.
What's funny though is, like, the thing that I thought was really hilarious about this was I saw some people that were all like, "This is outrageous. How can Sony do this?" And I'm like sitting there going, like Microsoft just bought two of the biggest publishers like not that long ago. Like, is
True,
it really?
But they're not. But they're not keeping their stuff off the competitors' hardware. They're not.
We have to
according to them, everything's a fucking Xbox now, which I think is, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But whatever.
I just like, because I saw some people like Sony's starting a monopoly. I'm like, this is not a monopoly, people. Microsoft is closer to a monopoly than Sony is.
Yeah.
And even then, it's not that bad.
Yeah, and you get the sense with Microsoft, they're buying a bunch of stuff, but they're not hoarding it for themselves.
No, they're not.
It would be different if, say, they bought all the ABK stuff and they're just like, okay, that's all on our platform now. You have to buy an Xbox to play Call of Duty. Like, then you could be like, yeah, that's pushing it. That's taking it too far. But they clearly don't want to do that because, their hardware sales may be down, but everything else is doing really well. So they're like, what the fuck's the problem, right? And then there was that Phil Spencer interview recently where he's like, no red line on anything coming to PlayStation or whatever. And then doing the whole like, oh, we're still making hardware, because they're probably like, yeah, why the fuck not? Because like it probably sells enough to be like, hey, might as well just keep making it because weirdos like me will buy them.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing, when you have people like me baked into the ecosystem who already have like a library of hundreds of games, like you're not going to shut us off from it. So, again, it's all really weird, but like Sony buying FromSoft, I don't know, because that's the only reason why they're buying them is for that. If they were to do it, it would be sort of like if Sony were going to buy Square, it would be just for Final Fantasy. And my issue with that would be like, well, what about everything else? Is everything else just going to go away? And with Sony trying to buy them, I mean, again, they're like a conglomerate. They don't just do video games; they do other stuff.
Yeah,
I know. What didn't Sony? Was it Sony bought Crunchyroll? Was that it?
Sony bought. All right, it's confusing. The people. I'll give the cliff notes on this just because it's confusing and people still don't quite understand. Sony bought Funimation. Then they bought Crunchyroll. Then they decided to merge the two, which essentially meant Funimation essentially just absorbed Crunchyroll. But because the Crunchyroll name at this point is much more well known, they just kind of rebranded Funimation as Crunchyroll. So the original Crunchyroll is gone. That's no longer a thing. That's absorbed into Funimation, but the Funimation name has been retired, and now they just use Crunchyroll as the name. So it's one entity now. And
so Sony merged the animation studio and the streaming platform together.
Well, what's funny is Funimation had its own streaming platform as well.
Has that stuff been moved over?
It's completely gone now. They finally phased it out.
Okay, but I assume Crunchyroll now just has all of that stuff.
Yeah, they basically took two dubbing companies and two streaming companies and just merged them together. But Funimation's
So
been around longer, so they kind
yeah,
of are the dominant people in charge. But they just used Crunchyroll's name because it's more well known worldwide.
yeah. So Crunchyroll basically is now Funimation, what Funimation was and Crunchyroll was, but together. Like it's just one big
Yes,
thing now.
yeah,
Okay, so it's basically like their anime division.
which is hilarious though because
Basically,
they own another anime publisher called Aniplex as well, but they're a separate thing.
I'm surprised they merged them into Crunchyroll.
Well, they don't have
They could have the Sony Crunchyroll division.
Aniplex is different because they're not a streaming platform; they're just a distributor. Like they don't dub anything; they just distribute. So I guess they're kind of their own thing.
Okay. Because yeah, looking at them, yeah, they own like manga publishing, they do film production, DVD sales, yeah, the video game stuff. So it's like, that again, that seems like a lot to take on. You know what I mean? If Sony were to buy that, it'd be oh. Uh-oh. I can't stop the recording. Did I do something? I don't think so. Uh-oh. This is not good. What the? Are you okay?
I don't know.
I thought I did something wrong, so I was like, wait a minute. But no, I didn't.
No, you froze on mine, and I was like, oh shit. And then all of a sudden I turned it, my entire thing just went, nope. And I was like, oh shit. Thankfully, the recording did not stop, so we're all good.
Yeah.
So that'll be funny to hear in the playback.
Oh, you're gonna have to edit. Poor guy.
Nah, it's funnier because you'll just look at the, you're like, oh no.
Like the audio version.
Well, it's great because this happened on GNC a while back, and there's an entire segment where Alex is like, I don't know what to do, and she starts singing this song about not knowing what to do, and I left it in.
Oh, nice. I gotta listen to that now.
I forget which episode it was, but yeah.
But anyways, back to this. It's like I feel like this would be a lot for Sony to take on. Like essentially it's them requiring like a mid to high tier like Japanese company basically that like handles a lot more than just video games and even more than just like FromSoft and video games as well. So it's it's one of those things where it's like maybe it's like a bigger strategy. Like maybe they're not necessarily buying them just so they could like have Elden Ring or whatever. Like maybe there's more to it than that.
That's my theory because I know all the articles are highlighting the FromSoft and ignoring the fact that there's a lot more to here going on than people think. I don't know, honestly. I'm very intrigued by. I mean, for all we know, this might not even happen. This is still just.
Oh yeah. To be fair, these sort of company acquisition talks happen all the time. Like a lot of times these happen like under the table. We don't know about them until like years later, so these things are happening like crazy. Like I guarantee you Microsoft has talked to so many different companies about acquiring them that we've not known about or won't hear about for another like couple years. You know what I mean? Like say when they tried to buy Nintendo, we didn't know about that right away. Or I'm sure, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it's ever been confirmed, but I'm pretty sure they've talked to Sega about acquiring them before. Like, that rumor that'll never go away, right?
The thing with the Sega one to me is always interesting just because like people think like there's always this weird mystique that people have that Sega's constantly like financially in trouble, but like when you look at Sega, they are like
they're healthier than they've ever been.
I know, like I've always like, what do you talk? Because there is still a certain degree of people when they think Sega, they go herder Sonic company. That's all they do. And I'm always like,
I mean, Sonic's been doing pretty well recently with the movie and Shadow Generations and all that. So Sonic's in a decently healthy place too.
And even the most recent games, not all of them have been like the greatest ever, but Frontiers did pretty well. Superstars did pretty well. I mean,
Shadow Generations has done really well. Like it's one of the more well received Sonic games in recent memory. I believe it sold like 1 million in its first day or something. It's like, holy shit, like that doesn't happen even with Sonic, which is always a steady, consistent seller, but outside of that, you have like the like Dragon series and the Atlas stuff also doing really well. So yeah, Sega's in a healthy spot. And I'm sure, the Microsoft talks happened. I think it was around like the OG Xbox. Like I remember I read somewhere, it could be not true, but it makes a little bit of sense. And that was the idea of Microsoft getting Sega involved in the marketing of the Xbox in Japan. So, like in Japan, it would be the Sega Xbox. You know what I mean? Which sounds gross saying it out loud. Like, ew, ew. Like, I mean, people have said
that's
the
up
OG
there with
Xbox is a Dreamcast too, you know?
that's
But
honestly as weird to say as Nintendo PlayStation. Like
that rolls off the tongue a little bit better. You know, like
that and that
Nintendo
actually was a
PlayStation.
thing. Like there was a
Yeah, like,
Nintendo
but just the
PlayStation.
idea of Microsoft being like, oh, let's take the Xbox and let's just slap Sega's name on it in Japan. That'll sell it.
Which is hilarious because
Hilarious.
Sega never sold well in Japan except for the Saturn.
Yeah. Like weirdly enough, if they did it everywhere, it probably. I mean, honestly, probably wouldn't have hurt the sales. You know.
Yeah, honestly,
But
like because there was also supposed to be like if the Dreamcast hadn't failed, there was going to be crossplay like between Xbox and Dreamcast.
crossbreeding.
Yeah,
it would have been crossplay in the early 2000s, which would have been cool as shit.
Honestly, that's like one of those weird headcanons that I was like, this would have been so interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine if those two stayed in the hardware business, I have a feeling they would have merged.
Probably.
Yeah.
Point.
But it feels like that boat, the whole Microsoft Sega boat, like that's gone. You know, I don't think it'll ever happen at this point, and it's fine. Doesn't have to. So this whole like Sony buying them, it's probably I imagine FromSoft is one of the big reasons why they're going for it. But
yeah,
again,
I don't really think they're that desperate to get Acquire.
No, and it's not like they need FromSoft exclusivity because their stuff sells just fine on there, you know. And I don't think it's them being like, oh, we need to take away Xbox sales. I mean, if that is, then that's a really dumb petty move, you know. And if I were Microsoft, I would stop giving them the shit they have on PlayStation if they're going to be that way. That's how I would do it. I'd be like, if you're going to be a petty bitch, then I'm going to be a petty bitch. You know what I mean? But that's all hypotheticals. And we'll see what happens. I mean, their share price shot up when this news happened, but again, it's all speculation. We'll see if anything actually happens with it because, you know.
I will say the funniest fucking article I saw, because this was such a clickbait bullshit article, was because Mario and Luigi Brothers ship it just came out, and it's actually been made by Acquire.
Yeah, that is true.
I saw an article being like, bad news for the Super Mario and Luigi series. I'm like, guys, Acquire didn't even make the damn series. I think that it'll be fine.
Like, and Brothership reviewed okay.
Yeah, but they're all acting like, well,
it reviewed fine.
They're like, Sony's taking away the Mario and Luigi developer. No more Mario and Luigi. I'm like, you guys realize that Acquire only made this one game. The rest of the series was made by an entirely different studio. And Nintendo owns it and can get someone else. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, looking through some stuff, apparently, yeah, the Aniplex that you mentioned, a lot of the anime is IP from Katakawa. So it could be more of a play for the anime stuff than anything else. Which that's very possible, you know.
Oh yeah.
It's so and plus, yeah, it's like a Japanese company trying to acquire another Japanese company, which, you know, Japan has different laws about the business merging. You know, I mean, they do happen, but it's not as like easy peasy as it is, say, in the West. So, I mean, we'll see if anything happens with it. It might not be that big of a deal. You know what I mean? This isn't going to be like Bandai Namco or Square Enix or anything like that.
No, this is a small, to be fair, a relatively smaller corporation.
Yeah. I mean, and plus when those two happened, those were like years in the making. And I think they had to get through a lot of government dealings to finally happen. And now we're used to them. So whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people are just, it was a slower news day and people needed something to be angry about. So they took this and they've run a little wild with it. And
yeah, I mean, it seems like if Sony were to do this, it would just be like a why not. Apparently, again, Sony already has a 14% share in FromSoft and a 2% interest in Katakawa, respectively. So going for a full acquisition is the logical next step. So they already have some dealings. So it could be that, or it could just be they want like majority share in both companies, you know. Maybe they end up getting like 51%. And
that would be an interesting,
to be their own, still allowed to be their own thing, but they have
kind of
like stake.
kind of like a Psygnosis kind of situation where like
Yeah.
they own them, but they're still independent in a sense.
Yeah, which is kind of what they tried to do with Bungie. Kind of,
Yeah.
you know? And plus they do know they would get a lot of bad press if they were just like, yeah, we own FromSoft, all their shit is PlayStation exclusive now, like suck it, nerd. Like people would get mad. They would. And they would have a right to be. So but I doubt that would happen.
I'm kind of with you on this. I think it's a lot deeper than we know right now, and we have to wait and see.
Yeah. So, and again, it's, as I usually joke about, oh, if Sony's acquiring it, nobody cares. But if Microsoft does, then everybody gets fucking mad.
Which is, weirdly enough, though, people care this time because it's from
Yeah.
Soft.
I mean, from what I'm seeing is seeing some people saying like, "Oh, Sony should totally do this because Microsoft's been going crazy with the acquisitions." And I'm like, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. And again, it's probably more than just wanting like FromSoft. They probably want like the anime section of it is probably a big deal to them. And I imagine like Chunsoft and Acquire would just be like,
they're good developers.
Yeah.
Good, so
I mean, always the issue with these acquisitions, I mean, it happened with ABK, is that some of the lesser stuff kind of gets forgotten and thrown to the side, which I have a feeling those two maybe would be victims of that, which would be unfortunate. So who the fuck knows? If anything happens, we'll talk about it, but yeah. I wouldn't worry about it. I don't care that much. I have Sekiro on the Xbox. It's a great fucking game. Y'all should play it. How about that?
Yeah.
So the other thing we can talk about is the Game Awards. Speaking of people getting mad, the Game Awards, it's that time again.
Did you see that Keeley's trying to trademark the fucking Game Awards name?
I thought he already did.
Well, I guess he's trying to like trademark Game Awards, which a lot of people are like,
maybe the Game Awards would be fine.
Yeah.
You gotta add the. I don't know. Maybe the trademark office has an issue with like trademarking the word the, because it's the most commonly used word in the English language.
I didn't really look deep into it, so it might just be like a whole lot of nothing. But
well, I know the big thing right before it was them basically saying like expansions or DLC can potentially be like game of the year, as well as like remasters and remakes kind of a thing. And that was a whole thing. And that's one of those like, and then you see like the list come out and it's like, oh, Shatters of Erdtree is in the game of the year talk. And it's like, and I have a bad feeling it's going to fucking win because it's Elden Ring. It's FromSoft, and it's like, I personally think expansions and DLC should get their own separate category, because they're definitely worth talking about. But it's like you need the base game to play it. You know what I mean? It's not the same thing. It's like the comparison I made was, say, like Alan Wake 2's The Lake House, like that big DLC. Imagine if that was in Game of the Year. People would be like, why the fuck is that there? It's a DLC. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's unfair to compare an expansion for a game that's a couple years old to a brand new full-ass video game. You know what I mean? Like, I think they're different. And the remake remasters, they definitely need their own category. Like, we get so many of them now, they desperately need their own category. I think if you want to throw like Resident Evil 2 remake in for Game of the Year talk, I think that's fair.
A new Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That's a new game.
Like, yeah, exactly. I mean, if like throwing that in a remake remaster category is like, that's different. You know what I mean? But say like Resident Evil 2 remake, you could put that in like the best remake category as well as Game of the Year, because it's like it checks both boxes. But like Shadows of Erdtree, I didn't play it. I still haven't played Elden Ring, and I know Erdtree is good. I'm sure it's FromSoft, but like, I don't know. I feel like having that there feels like it's taking away from like an original game that could be there.
Yeah, and I saw the nominees, and I was like, the only two games on the list that I have any interest in are two I haven't played yet because money, but also it was Astrobot and Metaphor, and I'm just kind of like, I don't think either of these are gonna win. So,
it's another year where I didn't play any of these games.
Yeah,
so I mean, Astrobot I'll play eventually. Balatro, it's cool. They always throw an indie game in there, which I respect, even though it feels almost like a I hate to say like a DEI thing where it's like, we need an indie game in here. But Balatro is very popular. People love it. People have been begging me to fucking play it. I just haven't gotten around to it. It looks like a game I would like, though. Like Black Myth Wukong. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of weird controversy about that game, but I don't know. Like Erd Tree already said, Rebirth. I'm not surprised Rebirth is there. I'm glad Metaphor is there because Metaphor seemed to like really pop off in terms of it being fantastic, and it's cool to see like Sega up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As a diehard Sega boy, it feels like representation.
As a Sega fan and an Atlas fan, it's like yay.
Yeah, and it's cool to see like Atlas is at that point now. You know, it's like because I don't think was Persona 5 in the Game of the Year talk when that came out. I don't think it was. Which is crazy to think that like in 2017, because the Game Awards were going on 2017, that like was it? Hold on, I gotta check. Was it even nominated? Okay, it was. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah, for 2017, it was Breath of the Wild, Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, PUBG, and Mario Odyssey. That is a weird set of games. Just having PUBG in there.
PUBG. That's a. It's still a thing, but wow,
it's still very much a thing. Yeah, but yeah, it's cool to see that stuff there. If I had to guess what's going to win, I would say Shadows of Erdtree because I had said it before, and that's like I think the issue a lot of people have with the Game Awards is it feels too much like Jeff Keighley's thing and not like the game industry's thing. You know what I mean? It's like the DICE Awards are like that feels more like the game industry.
Yeah.
Handing out awards kind of a thing. You know what I mean? And those are handled really well. But they don't have like the presentation of the Game Awards, which the Game Awards are trying to be like the Oscars, which, you know, I think the game industry having that is cool. At the end of the day, yeah, it doesn't mean shit, but like it's cool to have, you know, it's just, I wish it was less of like, oh, it's Jeff, the Keighley's, you know, that's the joke.
Yeah.
It's just the Keighley's and you know, his personal, and you know, his personal bias comes in.
Oh yeah.
It comes in every time.
And you watched every year and you're like, who's going to break on stage this year?
You're like, here's the part where he sucks off Kojima. You know, there's the part where he like downplays, you know, certain companies he doesn't like, you know, that whole thing.
All the anime games out the window. Fuck that.
I mean, Metaphor's up there.
I know. That's why I was surprised. There's like
I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. Because when I saw that game come in with a super high Metacritic and people were digging the shit out of it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna be there for sure.
It was too powerful to be suppressed.
Exactly, and it'll win. At the very least, it'll win Best RPG.
Most likely. Well,
it'll win
Ring count as an RPG?
The Shadows of Erdtree. I don't even think it's in there for RPG.
Oh, maybe.
For Best RPG, it's Dragon's Dogma 2. Oh, Shadows of Erdtree is in it. Rebirth, Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. And I think Metaphor will be the one that wins that.
That is a strong category.
Yeah. I mean, Infinite Wealth is mine, obviously, because it's the one I played. And it's technically my game of the year. So, because it's like, of the games I've played this year, it's like, yeah, that came out this year. I'm like, yeah, that was probably the best one. That was probably the best one.
It's kind of funny. Like there's been a controversy I saw going around online. Well, not a controversy, but just a discussion I've seen. Our friend of the show, Dave Jackson, he had made a comment online that I really agreed with. He made a point where like he said he was tired of people saying like this has been such a mid-year of games because like he pointed out he's like we've not had a mid-year of games in like a long time.
I feel like we're due for a mid-year for games, you know, and that's like. When you go on YouTube and you see like all these videos of people saying like gaming's boring now or you know gaming's not as good as it used to be, and it's all these fuckers who all they do is play like online shooters and they're bitching about it, and it's like, bro, play another fucking game. How about that? Like, if you want to enjoy gaming again, it's so you don't even have to play shit that came out this year. You know, you can like just like whatever you play games on, just go into the store and deep dive a little bit. Look at the games that are like 10 years old or, you know, or just, you know, retro game or, you know, like there's so many great fucking games out there that it's like, it's hard to say like gaming isn't good. Like gaming is better than it's ever been just in terms of the accessibility of games. You know what I mean? Like it's so easy to get like a half decent PC or just buy a fucking Switch. and there's just so many games for that you could play that are fantastic.
Honestly,
you know what I mean?
The way right now there's too many good games coming out.
Oh yeah, we always talk. That's the joke we have is there's too many fun games to play.
Like the problem I have is like there's so many games I can't afford to pay $70 for all of these games. Like
Yeah, like I don't pay $70 unless it's like I did for Infinite Wealth because I love that series now. Like every once in a while you'll find a game that's worth spending the $70 on. But yeah,
oh
like
yeah,
in your situation or in a lot of other people's situations, they can't afford it. And I totally get that, you know.
like I
Which
want to
hey,
play
right
Meta.
now there's the big Black Friday sale. I think it's on like all the consoles and maybe on PC. So if you are gaming on a budget, now's the time to go find some cheap games.
Oh yeah,
Now's the time.
like I mean I want to play Metaphor, but like I
It
just
looks
can't.
great. I'd
I
love
know.
to play it. I don't have the fucking time, and plus I started playing Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, I'm about 10 hours in, and it's very good. It is a fantastic. It's a JRPG ass JRPG. They didn't change a huge amount of stuff. It's still very what you expect from a from Dragon Quest 3, pretty much. There are some quality of life features I like you can there's an option to recall where you can save like dialogue interactions with characters and you can refer to them later on, which is really cool. There's objective markers. I think level grinding has been streamlined a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's still Dragon Quest 3. So it's not like I've been saying it's not a beginner friendly game. I would say like 11 is probably your better bet if you want to get into the series and you're brand new to it. But if you don't mind all the old shit, 3 is it's a beautiful old game.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'd say. A beautiful old game.
I'll be getting it eventually. Just I'm at the
Yeah,
point right
and
now where
that
it's like
game was 60. It was 60, which is it hard? It's not easy to justify a $60 game that's like a remake of like a 30-year-old game, but
yeah.
you know me, I had to buy it.
Speaking of old games, I did want to just share that I've acquired the Holy Grail of Sega Dreamcast collecting today, a few days ago. I got
What the that fucking oh yeah, it's Spirit and that shitty DVD case. I hate that.
yeah,
I
I
hate it
know.
so much. Ugh.
So for those who aren't watching on video, I got a copy of Spirit of Speed 1937, one of the most critically panned games on Sega Dreamcast. It's also the final game to use the LJN logo because Acclaim had such little faith in it. They said, "Fuck it, we're not putting our name on this." Um,
We'll slap a quality name on it. LJN.
they still owned it, so they were like, "Fuck it, LJN." It's really weird booting this up and seeing like a high quality version of the LJN logo pop up, and it's like that's weird.
Yeah,
Um,
that is weird as hell.
so I had seen this game on the shelf for like a couple months at the retro store, and nobody was interested. And I had passed because I didn't want this dumb DVD case, but I eventually kind of hit the point. It was like $20. I was like, you know,
That's still too much for that game.
yeah, I know, but the jewel case is worse. So it's like, I was like, fuck it. I need to complete my racing game collection on Dreamcast anyways, and I want to experience it. And I will say, this game is a weird case of like it's not like bad in the sense of like it's unplayable. It's just the most boring fucking game. Like it's so mid. It's so mid mediocre that it just becomes the worst thing ever because it is so boring.
Yeah, it's not that interesting. like
It's
like conceptually, the idea of like a racer from like the early 20th century when like racing like just started. Like that's a fucking cool concept. I'm surprised that hasn't been attempted again since. Like the most is if you buy the Mafia remake, the Mafia 1 remake, there's a little bit of that in there, which is cool. But that's about the extent of it, you know? And there's like that hard drive article where they ranked every Dreamcast game, and this game is at the dead bottom at 244. So
which is kind of funny because I think there is actually worse Dreamcast games. Like this one is just it's so unremarkable. That's like why it's so bad. Like it's like not even like there's so many worse games out there, but this one
yeah,
is
there
just
is.
it's just so mediocre. It's like
It is. It's a rough go. And it's just like not a great racing game. Like the races goes way too long, and like the physics aren't great. It's a mess.
yeah.
But by all means, try it out. It's just we need a good historical racing game.
I know.
That's what we need, but we don't have it, and Codemasters is too busy. So
yeah,
fuck.
they're forever gonna make F1 games for the rest of time.
If it sells.
Um, Now before we get into our game, there was one last piece of housekeeping I wanted to bring up. We got another new entry into the Nintendo Music selection.
Oh, we did? Hold on. Don't tell me. I'm going to look it up. Look for some reason on the app. I don't know if it's you, but when I pull up the app on my phone, the first time I do it, it'll stay in loading. But if I immediately close it and open it again, it's fine. I don't know why. But anyways, let me see. F-Zero X?
You got boost power. Yes.
I mean, that's a good soundtrack. So that's
is
a good one. Yeah.
I
that
wish
version
they would
of that version of Big Blue is pretty good.
It is. I really want F-Zero GX's soundtrack up there at some point, just because
it's so good. It's so good.
there's so many great songs. All the F-Zero games have great soundtracks. I saw that though today, and I was just like, oh, good. Hell yeah.
Fuck you, Nintendo. That's all you're getting.
Anytime I see F-Zero X come up, I just think of all the freaking like sound like clips and stuff like "You got boost power" or "Oh yeah."
X is another example I've mentioned about the N64 where I feel like the GameCube counterpart overshadows it completely. You know?
Yeah.
Like in my eyes, like GX is so much better than X. Both are great games, but GX feels like it's what X wanted to be.
Well, X,
you know what I mean? That people forget about X because GX was such a fucking monster of a game.
The problem with X is like the fact that it runs at like 60 is fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, it's like the best performing N64 game of all of them. It's kind of amazing.
Which is hilarious because the menus run like shit for some reason.
Yeah, but who cares? They're menus. Like the gameplay is what matters, man.
I just find it hilarious that the game runs so fucking smooth, but the menus are laggy and like fucking glitchy. And I'm like, that's fun.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, I agree with that.
But like the trade-off to the 60 is the graphics are so like basic, which is fine. I mean, it looks
blocky, very blocky. But when it comes to a racing game, I think the performance is much more important than the quality.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like a racing game is the prime example of a do you want optimized quality or optimized frame rate? And it's like frame rate every goddamn time. Those racing games need that. You know?
Did you see they also put F-Zero Climax on the Switch app, the Game Boy Advance app?
The GBA one. Yeah, Climax is that's the one that was based on the show that released here. No,
it was the one that we didn't get. We got GP Legend.
That's right. Yeah, GP Legend.
They also put that on.
Yeah, and then there was the other F-Zero on GBA. That was
Maximum Velocity.
Velocity, yes. Do we have that one too?
Yep, we have all three of the GBA ones now. But the big thing was we have Climax now, so it's like we officially have every F-Zero game now available over here in some form. Obviously,
well, we're still missing GX.
Well, I meant just the series has official releases in America now. Like every game.
Because is F-Zero X on N64?
I believe it is. Yeah, it is because I was playing it. I was playing it with Nave actually.
For gaming for cooperative whatever.
No, we were actually doing something with Aaron, and Aaron was late, so we were just playing F-Zero X.
That's so funny how like Nave has like become a Nintendo guy. I think that's adorable. Yeah. Oh yeah, there it is. There it is. So yeah, so we got that, and then like of course F-Zero is on the SNES one. And now we have the GBA ones. We just need fucking GX, baby. That's all we need.
That'll probably be Switch 2, hopefully.
I imagine if they end up doing GameCube NSO for Switch 2, that will be like one of the games they have for it. Because at this point, I don't see them doing a full-on remaster of it. Because I feel they would have done it by now if they wanted to.
I wonder if it's a licensing issue because Sega technically made it.
I don't think it would be. Sega seems very cooperative.
Yeah, I don't think Sega would be a dick about it. I wonder if there's like some tape in the background they have to go through just to get it. That's taking some time.
It's possible. I mean, think about it. We still haven't gotten like a new Genesis NSO update in like a year.
Yeah.
Which
I mean, they gave us
which weirds me the hell out.
They gave us literally the holy grail of Genesis, and then they just said that's good enough.
What Fantasy Star 4?
No, Crusaders Ascenti.
Oh yeah, that one too. That's great that's there.
Oh yeah, just to play it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Climax is the Japanese box, which is really cool. But yeah.
Mm.
Oh yeah, and we got all the Starfy games, which is fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, we still
So,
need
yeah.
that other the one on DS, not the one we got. There was the fourth one.
Yeah. But yeah, GBA NSO it's getting better. It's still not where it should be, but it's getting there. There's still some noticeable missing, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. So we've spent
This is a fucking chat episode, isn't it? We're not talking about the game.
We've spent almost an hour waffling. I think it's time we move on to the game itself. Not that there's much to say.
Yeah, there's really not, but we'll do the rigmarole anyway.
So for this episode, we if you couldn't tell by Thrax's little banner down there for our video watchers, we're revisiting this gem right here, Return Fire, because there actually is on the 3DO DLC.
Not DLC, but like an expansion.
Yeah, it's like a primitive DLC in a sense.
Like like a Return of the Lich King. Did I say it right? That World of Warcraft one? Yeah.
Yeah, or like a Sims expansion pack or something.
Yeah. Sims Pets. This is the Sims Pets of the 3DO.
Yeah. Bon Voyage, Night Out, Hot Date. This is the
hot date. Yeah, this is a hot emphasis on hot.
Yeah. So yeah, we're talking about Return Fire Maps O Death. I love the fact it's Maps O Death.
I kept saying Mazes of Death.
I was
Maps of Death makes so much more sense.
I thought it was Maps of Doom for a while, and then I realized
Maps of Doom. I like that.
Maps. I thought that it was Maps of Death, and I read it. I was like, oh no, it's Maps O Death.
Yeah. It's easy to get it mixed up, so don't feel too bad.
So this is an interesting one. This expansion pack is exclusive to the 3DO version of this game.
Interesting.
I don't believe any of this bonus content was included on the later PlayStation and Saturn releases.
Not that you could tell.
No, like so the back of this box is great. Like there's some awesome like buzzwords here.
Oh yeah. The Return Fire artwork is fantastic for both of them.
So on the back of the box we get more. This game is so addictive you might have to go to rehab from Electric Game. From EGM.
Rehab from blowing up guard towers. I just can't fucking stop killing guard towers.
The graphic detail is astounding. A must-have 3DO. Oh, I must have a 3DO.
It could just be that like I played the original Return Fire on 3DO and then I played this on emulator, but it does look a little better. Not like a significant, but it looks like a little cleaner.
Yeah. I also love so it basically explains that all this is really it's essentially a bonus pack of more levels.
That's basically it gives you more levels. The password system has changed from like letters to characters. And there's some like slight UI changes in terms of like you get a better sense of like how many of each vehicle you get. And the controls feel maybe a tad tighter, but it's like I'm really like struggling to think of like new things to say other than just it's more Return Fire, and I really liked Return Fire. So it's like there's just more of it with maps that are different, but I feel like that game, like the map design isn't really a highlight. So it's not that big of a deal. It's just basically like if you want to, like if you played so much original Return Fire that you want more, like here you go. But what's interesting is if you try to load this in an emulator or just say a physical copy by itself without the original Return Fire, it won't let you. And basically all it needs is like a save file for the original Return Fire to work. Like you don't really have to play the original Return Fire. They just want a save file basically.
Yeah, it's a really weird way of doing that. Like, because when I first bought this, because I had seen on the back the little happy skull there, it says warning, you need a copy of the original game to play. And I was like, oh, you're gonna have to disc swap? That's gonna be weird.
Disc swapping would have been a nightmare.
Oh, especially on a fucking FC1. Like that thing would have been like, what are you doing? Don't do this.
I mean, to be fair, I hate disc swapping on any fucking console. Like whenever I've had multi-disc games and they're like insert disc 2, and I'm like, I don't want to, because I feel like I'm gonna ruin it.
Originally I was thinking it was going to be kind of like how like the Sims do it, where it's you put in the expansion disc and then it'll like download the data, like say to RAM, and then you'll swap into the main disc. But no, it's literally just it just wants a save file, and it's like, oh, it's good.
And for emulator, all you have to do is just load the game up. You don't even have to play a level. You just load it up, and then it'll like just say like, oh, I'm gonna play it, and then you just turn it off, and then you're fine. Like it's amazing how far like save files have gotten in emulators, to where now it's like you can save them and treat them just like any other, like say the OG save files. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to save state to like save your progress in general, which is cool.
Yeah. I will say too, I do like the box art. It's kind of fun.
I think it's better than the original.
Well, the original is just this guy's face.
Yeah, I mean, I like the dude's face, but I think the Maps of Death is a better example of what Return Fire is.
Yeah, just chaos. Yeah, other than that though, like when I was playing it, I'm not gonna lie, half the time I couldn't tell if it was a new map or a map from the original game. I was like, kind of
I think like the skull in the little corner is meant to distinguish it's a new map. I think
so. Did you ever die during gameplay?
Oh yeah.
Did you like the skull laughing at you?
Yes, that was probably the best new addition.
I love that
the skull. Guy. It feels like they were trying to make him like the Return Fire mascot. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, I like him. He's cute. Yeah, he's cute. But yeah, it's just like, it's just more Return Fire. And, you know, like the same things I liked and disliked about the original Return Fire still apply here. So.
See, I low-key really like when games insult you when you lose. Like, that's always just funny to me.
Yeah, yeah. The one I always remember is in Sunshine, where you hear the clown horn.
Yeah. Or like...
Which always pissed me off.
In like a Crash Bandicoot game, like whenever you game over, you just got Uka Uka or like Cortex laughing at you. It's like that's
yeah. We don't get that anymore.
No, because games are too nice now. We can't insult our players.
They just put you right where you are and just say, "Go for it again. Don't worry, kid."
See,
which honestly, I like that though. I hate having to like shredge all the way fucking back from where I started. You know?
See, I miss just like the shit talk era of gaming though. Like I still always think like Duke Nukem, the Manhattan Project on a PC mobile. I think it was on 360 arcade for a while. It's the one that was like the 3D side scroller, like one of the many games that was coming out before during there was the Hold Us Over Until Forever came out.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird Duke Nukem side games. I've never played any of them.
Manhattan Project's pretty good. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on modern PCs anymore. Oh well. I like that game though, because if you're playing it and you pick very easy mode, it literally just has John St. John screaming "pussy" in the background.
Or like in Doom, where you select like the "Don't hurt me, please," and it's just like a baby with a pinky and all that.
Yeah. Or you get your pink gun, and I think it's in a Doom.
It might be, yeah. It might be.
There's an FPS where like if you pick easy mode, it turns the gun pink. Just as a
I mean, that's kind of cool, you know? Like, hell yeah. I'm blowing up devils with a pink gun. This is fucking sick as hell. It's like in the original Alan Wake, if you bought like a pirated version, they gave Alan Wake like a pirate, like an eye patch. And people are like, no, that's cool. I want the eye patch.
Yeah. No. See, we live in a day now where like the insults, just people are like, that's kind of cool though.
Yeah, be like, but I want that. Yeah. So it's like, it's harder to insult people because now it's like, they're like, no, I actually like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of, I was looking forward to adding more, but like there's really not a ton to Return Fire. It just kind of exists. Like it's just, if you liked Return Fire, here's more.
Yeah, basically. That's all really I have. Like, it doesn't change that. I mean, I didn't like play through the whole thing like I did the original Return Fire, so I mean, I doubt the levels get that much more interesting, but
I mean, there's over 100 new levels on this disc, and I'm like, I don't have time for that.
I didn't play all the fucking levels in the original.
No, I was like, yeah, no. Music still slaps, like it's still the same music.
Oh yeah, it's still the same, like classical music, which is always easy to get again because it doesn't cost anything.
I do find it interesting, like I mentioned earlier, the I'm pretty sure this is all 3DO exclusive content. I forgot doing research too. Like this is there is a Return Fire 2, but it's only on PC.
There is, yeah. I completely forgot about it until you said something.
I noticed it when I was trying to do research on this one. I was like, oh, Return Fire 2, PC only. And it I don't know much about that one other than it kind of just existed.
It looks like it's more just straight up 3D. Like it goes away from the overhead view and tries to be like a little bit closer to the ground. Which I mean, sure. I mean, you could probably play this game on like My Abandonware.
Probably.
Like
I was interested.
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Yeah, because like Silent Software, the developer for this game, they literally only would make like 2 more games after Return Fire. They made Return Fire 2, and then they made the greatest game in their category, Walt Disney World Magical Racing Tour.
Is that the PS1?
Dreamcast, PS1, and Windows.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not. If that game's actually good.
I have no idea. I've never played it.
Okay. You're the racing game guy, though.
I'll get to it eventually. I have the Looney Tunes racer. That one's pretty good.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that one.
It looks like every kart racing game on that era, so it might be all right.
Oh yeah, that one has credit to Crystal Dynamics though. Magical Racing Tour.
Oh yeah, it does. Oh yeah, because I think IDOS
IDOS published it.
Yeah, it was co-developed by Silent Software. Crystal did the rest of it.
It's weird. They're not credited on that page though. Huh. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did help out on it though. So, but yeah, there's a couple screenshots of Return Fire 2 on here, and it looks really bland in comparison to the original, which doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, so I think that was the shortest game discussion I think we've ever had.
I mean, there wasn't much to say.
There isn't even any fun like review stuff, like because I can't find any like tied to the Windows. To the Wikipedia page because it only goes to the original game.
Yeah.
I mean, we did get the whole "this game is so addictive you might have to go to rehab" from EGM, so there's that, I guess.
Yeah, that's funny.
Apparently the most people's perception was it was fun to have more Return Fire, but that was really all anyone cared about.
Yeah, that's it's a glorified level pack, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's just one of those games that exists. It was fine for what it was, and that's all we can really say about it.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
So call me crazy. This is going to be the most bland must play of all time because I think I said must play on Return Fire, and this is just more of that. So by association, I'd be like, yeah, it's a must play because it's just more Return Fire. And if you really liked Return Fire, you'll like this. Like the bit of it I played, I did like. I'm like, it's more Return Fire, but I liked it, and that's fine.
Yeah, I will say if you like Return Fire, definitely a must play. My one caveat will be if you're not emulating, this is one of the more expensive games to find.
That's why I didn't buy it.
So I wouldn't go out of your way to play these because it literally is just more maps. Like if you're a diehard Return Fire fan, by all means. But if you're just kind of like,
if you want to be that guy, go for it.
Yeah. But if you just enjoy Return Fire and you're perfectly content with the base game, I'd emulate it. It's fine. There's more Return Fire. You like Return Fire, you'll like this.
Yeah. And that's fine, like it's not amazing, but it doesn't have to be. Like Return Fire already like did all the groundwork to be like a solid game. So this just does more of that. And
Yeah.
that's fine with me. So it
Yeah.
gets a pass.
Yeah, I mean, I paid a pretty reduced price for this because I bought it at a con. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend paying full price for it for a physical.
Yeah.
So yeah, Return Fire. I don't know if we'll ever cover Return Fire 2 down the line because that'd probably be a lot of work, but we'll see.
I mean, we could always do, say, like a weird like roundup episode in the future where we just cover a lot of little games that we're like, hey, let's see what this thing is, and then we do like where we talk about like 4 or 5 games just kind of quickly or something.
Yeah. Honestly, that might make sense.
Yeah. And Return Fire 2 would absolutely be in that. I would download it off my abandonware, play it for like 2 hours, and be like, all right, that's all I got.
Maybe like an episode of games that were supposed to come out on M2, because Return Fire 2 was apparently at one point an M2 game.
That would be a good idea. I'd like that.
So we'll add that one to our back burner for whenever we get to that down the line.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that should be it. Once again, guys, thank you for joining us on the 3DO Experience. The 3DO Experience can be found on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. And be sure to check us out over on the Superpod Network. That's superpodnetwork.com. We're currently going through a series of blogs over on the site of our favorite Super Nintendo games that we've all played. We've got some cool stuff. I put out my article on SOS, probably the most obscure game anyone's bringing up.
There is no shot that is your favorite SNES game.
No, but people already picked some of the ones I wanted to talk about. And let's be real, I just wanted to talk about that one because it's so obscure.
That's fair. That's fair, yeah. I didn't want to write a blog about Spanky's Quest, so instead I finished my blog on Chrono Trigger. So it should be out by the end of this week. So yeah, it's I go a little bit into like how it's like the title is it was almost the JRPG standard, because I think that was sort of the idea behind Chrono Trigger, and then I discussed that and why it didn't happen. But read it and find out.
Nice. But yeah, you can also find all sorts of different shows, videos, blogs. You can also check out the other shows on the network, including Superpod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, Tommy's Video Game Ride Along, A Novel Console, Bar Silence, Find Time, the Elder Trolls Gaming Podcast, Remember 64, Gaming Together, Friday Night Gamecast, our 3 shows, Gaming and Collecting, the 3DO Experience, Geek Addicts, and we've been getting some new members to the network recently. We got the Retro Wildlands, Press B to Cancel, and the newest member, the Pre-Order Bonus.
Yay!
And with that, everybody, once again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you all later.
Bye-bye.